Good afternoon. I'm Rabbi Stuart Weinblatt from Congregation B'nai Tzedek in Potomac, Maryland, and the chairman of the Zionist Rabbinic Coalition. We're pleased to be able to offer this call today and to invite rabbis as well as members of congregations across the country an opportunity to hear firsthand from one of the top officials at the Israeli embassy, and also from Yossi Kupperwasser, who is one of the top experts on intelligence and security in the state of Israel. All of us are sharing the anguish, the concern over what's happening to our brothers and sisters in Israel, seeing the horrifying images of what has transpired in these last couple of days, and knowing that Israel's response is preparing its response, knowing that we then also must be ready to be able to stand strong side to side with Israel in whatever may happen. And so what we're going to do is to first, I'm going to introduce and ask Noach Hacker, who is with us from the Embassy of Israel, to share with us some perspectives from an inside perspective. And then after that, we'll hear from Yossi Kupperwasser, who I'll introduce at that time. In the meantime, just to let you know that Noah comes to us from the downtown Washington, D.C. office of the embassy, and where he is one of the top officials there. Prior to serving here in the United States, Yossi was one of the individuals responsible for the defense budget in Israel, so he's intimately involved in both what's going on now as what has transpired. And so, Noah, let me turn things over to you. If you would share with us, please, your comments and reactions and the things you think are important for us to know.
Thank you, all of you, for having me here. I stand before you today in this, no other way to see it, as terrible times. One that has deeply affected the hearts and minds of the people in Israel and people around the world. On Saturday, the 7th of October, during the holiday of Simchat Torah, as you well know, Hamas, a cruel and inhumane enemy, an organization labeled as a terrorist organization, even here in the United States, launched a savage attack against innocent civilians. There is no justification for such brutality. The assault began under the cover of heavy rocket fire, with missiles raining down upon Israeli cities, targeting innocent families as they slept in their beds in the holiday morning. After that, it further accelerated with ground invasions of hundreds of armed terrorists infiltrating 30 residential communities and 12 army bases, using open vans and motorcycles and tactics employed by the most extreme terrorist organizations such as ISIS. In the days followed, we were flooded with horrific images and videos, images of women, children, and men being cruelly murdered, of old people and entire families being kidnapped, and of babies subject to unimaginable abuse. Our homes, our communities were looted and set on fire, causing immense suffering to their inhabitants. For the Jewish people, these images are attached into our collective memory, a stark reminder of the most challenging times we have faced. Not since the Holocaust have so many Jews been killed on one day. The state of Israel has never witnessed such horrors before. That is not just another terrorist incident. This is not a threat hundreds of thousands of miles away. This organization of animals is operating practically in our backyard. To understand the magnitude of this tragedy and put it into perspective, we often compare this incident to other horrific terrorist events like 9/11. To illustrate, if we were to simulate the damage in terms of Israeli population size, the loss of approximately 1,000 Israelis would be akin to approximately 4,000 Americans. This is 10 times 9/11. The feeling of insecurity, rage, grips the residents of Israel, especially in those sitting at this very moment in their shelters with their families and kids. We are at war, and we cannot afford anything less than a clear victory. The Jewish people cannot afford to lose. The message that must emerge from this war is clear, not only to Hamas and all terrorist organizations and countries in the region seeking our destruction, led by Iran. This message is that the people of Israel cannot be defeated. The civilized and moral world will overcome the barbaric one. With these images of horror, stories of heroism are beginning to emerge also. Heroes like my friend from high school, Elchanan Kalmanzon, who left his home in Otniel on Saturday morning with his brother and nephew, took weapons from the Yeshuv's emergency squad and went to Kibbutz Be'eri because they heard that terrorists had infiltrated the kibbutz. Elchanan managed to rescue dozens of people, pregnant women, children, until he was shot down and killed. Like Elchanan, the names of other heroes are already reaching me in my immediate circle, who went out to fight with guns and weapons they collected from the sides of the roads from fallen soldiers, and ran forward to rescue families of the people of Israel from the hands of the evil murderers. Major Moti Shamir, a former company commander in the Golani patrol units, was also one of these people, one of these heroes. We are united under a common goal, a true understanding that we have no other choice but to stand strong. The people of Israel will prevail. The support we have received from friendly nations, especially the United States, has been truly unprecedented. However, the support may wane as days pass, and the memory of the horrific things that happened in Simchat Torah fades. But let us be clear, the state of Israel and the people of Israel will never forget what happened. We will continue to fight until victory is achieved because there is no other choice. Our strength and resilience also depend on your support. Our brothers, our sisters, we implore you to continue your support throughout social media, conversation with friends and acquaintances, and in any way possible, not only at this time, but also in the weeks to come and the months to come. We cannot let this tragedy happen again. Elchanan and I had another close friend in our classroom. His name was Nadav. He was killed in the army 20 years ago. A poem that we read every year in his memory that I think is very appropriate for this very moment. The poem is originally in Hebrew, but try to read it in English.
Noach, I want to thank you. Obviously, there was a problem with the reception there. I'm going to ask if that poem could be sent to us, and then we will put that out on our website of the Zionist Rabbinic Coalition for all to hear. I want to thank you, Noach, for that very personal, very moving, very important message. If you're able to come back on, and I know there's other people at the embassy who are participating, please try and do so. In the meantime, then, let me go to Yossi Kupperwasser. Yossi is a security expert and intelligence analyst. He's been with us in the past for other important calls, bringing us the opportunity to know specifically what is happening, as well as the, I was going to ask Noach the mood of the country, but Yossi is there as well. So Yossi, let me go to you now and ask you, first of all, your initial thoughts about the most up-to-date current situation. If you can share that with us, please. Yossi?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's very touching to listen to Noach's words.
Yeah.
And we are in still only the beginning of the effort to recover from what happened. It's everybody here is deeply devastated. The stories are coming, and it's not the end of the bad news that will come from what happened on Saturday the 7th. But where we are now, we are doing several efforts simultaneously. One of them is really this recuperation from what happened. There's a big effort here to show the unity, to show the spirit of the Jewish people living here in Israel, to get united in the mission ahead of us, which is to hit Hamas hard and to make sure that we are able to live safely in this beloved country of ours. That is the number one mission that we are involved in right now. And we are performing this mission in a very impressive way. And everybody that looks at how the reservists are coming, units that there's a lot of complaints coming from the reservists that they don't have equipment. The main reason they don't have equipment beyond the usual balagan in Israel is that in every unit, we ask for 100% from the people that are usually manning this unit, and we have 150, 180% coming because everybody wants to fight. So we have 300,000 people coming to serve in the military right now because they are so committed to fighting. There are efforts to form a unity government, which, if you remember where we were like 2 weeks ago, or actually a week ago, where we were a week ago to speak about the unity government was beyond apprehension. Now it is going to be, I hope so, sincerely hope so, it's going to be a reality. Still some fallouts from what happened before are heard here and there, but basically the vast majority of Israelis want to see this unity government formed as soon as possible for us to be able to go on and move forward. And you see
Yossi, what are the obstacles to the formation of a unity government at this time?
There's a debate of what is going to be exact role of everybody in the inner cabinet that's going to run the war, and whether Ben-Gvir is going to be there and whether Ben-Gvir is not going to be there, and what role Ben-Gvir is going to play. And this politics, I don't want to enter into this pitchy case of politics, but they are always important, and every one of them believes that he represents considerable and important chunk of the Israeli public that voted for him, and that his voice should be heard.
So do you think it can happen, and if so, when?
The results of this operation. Sorry?
So do you think it can happen, and if so, when would a unity government be formed?
I sincerely think that within a day we are going to have a unity government. The efforts are ongoing and very hard, and everybody understands that they have to make a move in this direction, because the public expects this to happen. Everybody expects this to happen. So I still hear from time to time people that cannot detach themselves from the old paradigm. But the majority of Israelis, the vast majority of Israelis, want to see a change.
And Yossi, what's going to happen in Gaza itself? What do you think the IDF goals will be, and are they achievable?
Well, everything is achievable. We can conquer Gaza and get rid of Hamas. The only question is what's going to happen after we achieve it, and what is going to be the price. That is the issue. So for many years we were told, don't enter Gaza with ground forces because you're going to pay a heavy price. Okay, we already have played much heavier price than we thought we are going to pay if we enter Gaza. So the price of not entering Gaza is already higher than entering Gaza. So I think we are going to enter. But much of the work is going to be done by the Air Force and by the Navy that bombard Hamas targets continuously and cause a lot of damage to Hamas as we speak. And we have to remember, Hamas lost its special units because they were involved in the attack, and most of them got killed while being in Israel. We have more than 1,000 bodies of Hamas operatives belonging to Nukhba, the special unit of Hamas, killed inside Israel, and just still, some of them are still operating. We just killed 2 of them like half an hour ago in the area of Re'im, where this festival of music festival to celebrate peace was held.
Can I ask a question, Yossi? What happens to the bodies of the terrorists? In the past, sometimes they've been returned to the PA or to elsewhere. What will happen, do you think?
For the time being, we'll hold them as because we need assets for the hostages issues. I don't know what's going to happen with the hostages. I hope that we shall be able to solve the hostage issue without paying anything. It's not going to be easy, but the pressure we put on Hamas right now is, amongst other things, meant to force them to give up the hostages. We deny them fuel, we deny them electricity, we deny them food, we deny them water. If they want to be able to get any of these things, they have to bring back the hostages. Now, this may sound inhumane, and especially about the water, but what can we do? That's a necessary move in order to force them to bring this hostages back. The Jordanians and the Egyptians wanted to send today humanitarian aid to Gaza. So of course we said no way, and they had to move back. First of all, there's no need for humanitarian aid right now, and we just started this siege. And secondly, we want the Gazans to understand that there's a heavy price that they are going to pay if they don't bring back the hostages. And
but soon they may start to execute the hostages, and soon they may start showing images, and that's going to have quite a devastating impact on the public. How will that be dealt with, Yossi?
Definitely. Look, when we are moving in, we have to take into account so many considerations. The hostages is one of them. We have to weigh in the impact of what we're going to do on the situation in the north, how it's going to affect our relations with the international community, because there are going to be a lot of casualties, how this is going to affect our relations with Saudi Arabia and the Abraham Accords countries, how it's going to affect the inner arena, the domestic arena in Israel. And one of the considerations, the major one, is going to be how this is going to affect the hostages. In my mind, that's my mind. I don't know what the government is going to decide. But in my mind, we should not be affected by the hostages issue. We already paid such a heavy price. We need to change completely the situation in Gaza. We need to change it fundamentally. And this is what should be the major consideration that guides us in deciding what kind of policy we're going to adopt. And this operation must end with a totally different situation in Gaza. You know, it takes such a blow for people to understand that there is a need to change. I wrote in the Middle East Quarterly a paper in June calling for a change of policy and change of paradigm in Gaza. And I said, look, Hamas is a terrorist organization dedicated to destroying Israel and killing the Jews. We cannot allow ourselves a situation where they are our neighbors. They eventually are going to do terrible things to us. We have to, once they give us an excuse, we have to use this excuse in order to change the entire situation and create a situation where there cannot be more terror attacks from Gaza, and they shouldn't be able to rearm. We did a terrible mistake for a long time now. We have to change this paradigm, whatever the cost is. And believe me, the Hamas threat is much smaller than the threat that the problems that we may encounter if we try to change the situation in Lebanon and in Iran. So it's with all the crisis attached to an attempt to change the situation in Gaza, these are the smaller prices, and we have to do that, and we have to make it happen. Of course, nobody was ready to listen to me, and the Middle East Quarterly wrote a full issue criticizing me. But
so when you call for this, and you indicate, Yossi, the necessity of changing in the regime and not allowing them to continue there, can you tell me tell us a little bit about what your sense is? What comes after Hamas? How will Israel be able to deal with whoever's coming in there?
Anything that comes after Hamas is better than Hamas. Okay, we always threaten ourselves that the replacement for Hamas will be another ISIS or something like that. It could be, but it's going to be weaker. And one thing that has to be done, and I call upon you because you have the power to communicate with your representatives in the United States. One thing that has to happen with the Palestinians in general, not only with Hamas in Gaza, but is that there got to be a change in the education system, because even if we prevent Hamas from rearming and we do all kinds of stuff and we change our behavior dramatically and adopt a totally different attitude towards Gaza, as long as they teach their people to hate, as long as they teach their people that killing Jews is something that should be appreciated, this problem is going to continue. We did in Israel a big mistake that after Oslo, we didn't force the Palestinian Authority to change their attitude. They keep paying salaries to terrorists. They keep paying, this pay for slave. I wrote this piece about it that made the Taylor Force Act move and the Kizuz law in Israel. I pointed that this pay for slave is something that has to change, and there is some reaction to that. But not enough. Nobody really demands the Palestinian Authority to stop paying salaries to terrorists. Nobody really demands the Hamas to stop educating people to hatred and to wash their brains to the extent that when they see that an Israeli killed, they celebrate and give candies away. That's the problem. Without dealing with that problem, this is going to repeat itself. Yes, as Prime Minister Netanyahu says, we are going to hit them in a way that they will remember it for 50 years. But if they keep hating, they will find another way. It's for killing Jews. It's what happened here was that we fell asleep because we believed that we can buy quiet in exchange for improving the living conditions in Gaza. We gave them the ability to send workers from Gaza to Israel. We kept raising the numbers until it was, I think, 18,000. We allowed the Qataris to get the money. We said to ourselves, they are deterred. They want to improve. There's changes in Hamas. Many of my friends, the specialists of Hamas said, oh, look at the 2017 new paper. Doesn't it represent the moderation? I said, what moderation? There's no moderation. They want to kill us just as they wanted to kill us yesterday. It's nothing has changed. It's this is the enemy we are facing here. And if you're not going to change the way they're brought up.
Yeah, after the operation is over, of course, there will be a very serious post-mortem, as there was after the war in Lebanon and as there was after the Yom Kippur War. But at this point, what do you see as some of the most immediate causes of the failure to anticipate, to recognize? Does it have something to do with the fact that Israel is totally out of Gaza? They're not totally out of the West Bank. So as a result, Israel has a better sense of what happens in the West Bank, but our human resources in Gaza are limited.
It has something to do with that, of course. It's more difficult to collect information when you're not present. Look, the initial scene, the original scene is Oslo. We moved out of the ability to govern what's going on. And while we were promised by the Palestinian Authority that they are going to teach their people to form peaceful relations with Israel, what they did was exactly the opposite. And instead of saying to them, hey, you're not teaching peace, after Arafat was speaking in Johannesburg, speaking about jihad, we should have stopped there. we didn't stop there, and we allowed them to raise their kids hating Israel, committed to the struggle against Israel until its demise. And this was the original sin. The second sin was that with the disengagement from Gaza, we did a lot of sins with the disengagement. We did not close the corridor from Egypt, allowing them to bring in as many weapons as they wanted, and we lost touch with the situation in Gaza. We lost intelligence, intelligence capabilities, and believe me, the third thing has nothing to do with all these two things. It's that we lagged behind, and this is something we have to understand. Fighting against those terrorists, crazy terrorists, needs a very robust learning competition, and you have to win the learning competition. And we lost the learning competition here in this respect because we were tending to believe that there was a change in Hamas, and we didn't understand that after the Guardian of the Walls operation in 2021, after we made such a show of force and were able to fight against their rockets and against their tunnels and against their air capabilities and against their naval capabilities, they are not going to say, oh, poor us, what can we do? From now on, we should live in peace with the Jews. No, they will sit down and together with the Iranians and the Hezbollah, work out another way, another creative way. And the way they operated was very impressive, but the problem is not how impressive it was. The problem is that we didn't think about it, and we didn't have information about it. And we were taken totally by surprise, and the price was immense. And,
one question I have, Yossi, is that we've seen some of the pictures of the training that the Hamas was doing, which was quite extraordinary. Hamas is right next to Israel. We certainly have drones that look at them. One of the thoughts I had was some of this training perhaps being done in Iran. Is there, of course, one of the questions is about Iran's involvement, but in light of the close proximity of Gaza and the fact that it is so relatively packed, is it possible that some of this training was going on outside of Israel, and that's why they weren't able to, outside of Gaza, that's why they weren't able to monitor it?
Sure, that for ages, for many years, the Iranians trained the Hamas people in Iran, and in all kinds of basic training and advanced training, and they give them the capabilities. They supply them the weapons. They supply them the tactics. They give them the guidance. They give them the money. It's all Iran. It's, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are proxies of Iran.
As
they
is
are part of the
in the
Iranian
north. As is in the north. We haven't talked about the north. What's happening there? What's going to happen there?
As I said, one of the things we have to watch and be very well prepared for is the possibility of escalation in the north. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. It's in my mind, Hezbollah is themselves that they have not decided whether they're going to enter it or not. The fact that they didn't enter from the beginning makes it more difficult for them to enter now, because Israel is already well prepared and anticipating some escalation. So they do pay their tribute for this for saying we support you, but they have not yet decided. On the one hand, if Israel strikes a very painful attack against the Hamas, so Hezbollah would feel that they need to show support and force Israel to separate the effort and all the good reasons why they should interfere. On the other hand, the Lebanese people are against it, and they are saying, why should we pay the price for the savage activities of the Palestinians? Let the Palestinians fight for themselves. How does that concern us? And Hezbollah has a very difficult task to answer this question, because they are also Lebanese. And on top of that, there are all the threats coming from the United States and the Gerald Ford air carrier coming in, and maybe another one. I don't know. President Biden is supposed to speak now. I don't know what he's going to say. But there are a lot of things.
In regard to Iran, what options does Israel have to deal with Iran at this time?
Well, the Iranians make an effort to say we are not directly involved. So I don't think that the Iranians are going to take an initiative and directly get involved in this battle as long as we don't get them involved. And I don't think we are going to. So I think Iran is going to support everybody from behind, give guidance, money, if they can send some arms. But I don't think that they are going to get directly involved. The question is that's why what they have the proxies for. They would fight until the last Hezbollah operative and until the last Hamas operative. It's no problem from their point of view. I don't think that they are going beyond that, Iran. But of course, for them, this is a test for the Iranian effort. And this was done with their consent and under their support and their logic. And the logic is to weaken Israel and get it disappear from the map, drive a wedge between Israel and the Saudis because they are very afraid of the normalization of the relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia, take advantage of what seems to be a weak position of the West. They look at the West, they say, okay, we are reaching to 60%. Nobody does anything. We are improving our conditions in Syria, in Lebanon, in the Palestinian arena, in Yemen, in everywhere. We are becoming friends with the Saudis. We support the Russians with UAVs. We are friends with China in an effort to change the world order and weaken the U.S. position in the world. Nobody does anything about that. Okay, let's move forward. And this Hamas activity that was moved by all of that was also a part of the effort to strengthen Hamas in the inner competition between them and the Abu Mazen, the weakening Abu Mazen. And all of that purposes were behind the ideas of Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas when they decided to move in that direction. They should have realized, I don't know how they again and again do not realize that something like that would cause a terrible Israeli reaction. They didn't think so because until now, and this is their mistake, but until now Israel didn't respond this way. And so they got the impression.
So you think Yossi, wait, I want to pick up on the last point there. You think Hamas is surprised by Israel's reaction? You don't think that that they anticipated that Israel would do these things? In other words, one of my concerns is that if we send in armed troops, tanks and forces, that much of Gaza is going to will be trapped and they're prepared for this. But you're saying now you think they weren't expecting Israel to respond the way that it's responded.
First of all, I don't know, but I think there is good reason to believe that they believe that the Israeli reaction that's going to be harsh is not going to be beyond what we saw in previous rounds. So there's going to be some problems, but with the hostages and with all the other elements, the threat from the north, and also all these elements, they will be able to deter Israel from something that is beyond what Israel used to do in previous rounds. This was, maybe they thought that this is going to bring Israel to collapse from within, because everybody is going to be on Netanyahu's throat, and I don't know what.
Are you prepared to?
They also figure out that there can be something else, but they, in their what is more likely and what is less likely, I don't think they thought that this is the end of Hamas in Gaza.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think that they were surprised by the success of their operation? Did that they would be able to murder as many people as they did, and so on?
I think so too. That yes, I think they thought they were going to kill many Israelis, but who even in Hamas, I think, was anticipating something of that magnitude. This was even beyond what they expect, in my mind. Not sure, but I think this is beyond what they expect. And anyhow, I don't think that their most probable option was that for Israel to really take over the Gaza Strip and get rid of Hamas. And they are trying to threaten us. They're saying, don't do that. It's, if you do that, you do exactly what we want you to do. And so on, all the words you say when you want to deter somebody. But Israel cannot afford going back to the situation that was in October 6th. There's no way Israel can afford it. So that's why I'm not sure. You know, look at Nasrallah in 2006. He admitted that he didn't expect this kind of Israeli reaction. I think that they in a way repeated just like we repeated our 73 failures, they repeated the Nasrallah failure. And but
let me pick up on something you asked.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the end.
Something you mentioned, alluded to very briefly a few moments ago, a difficult question, and that is, or sensitive one, and that is, do you think there's any way in which the internal divisions that have been going on in Israel over the last 10 months or so may have contributed to the sense of Hamas and or of Iran and their operatives that this is an appropriate time to attack?
I think so, yes. It's, even one of their people that was arrested said that this was one of the considerations, but I don't need him. The way the Iranians and Hezbollah and Hamas referred to the internal strife in Israel was clear. They saw that as the beginning of the collapse of Israel.
So in terms of what might it take to effectively neutralize Hamas from being a threat to Israel out of Gaza? Is it going to take the leveling of all of Gaza, 70%, 20%? What will it take to dismantle this threat that's being constantly held over Israel's head?
We don't have to flatten all of Gaza. That's not the issue. We have to flatten all those places where Hamas is operating, and this is quite a considerable part of Gaza. We are doing that. The kind of operation we are doing now from the air is that we move from one area to another and attack all the targets of Hezbollah. We already attacked more than 2,000 targets, including some high-rise buildings. It's quite a flattening. It's not 20% yet, but it's a clear message to Hamas. But with the siege and the ongoing air attacks, and maybe also the ground operation, the damage done to Gaza is going to be immense. And Hamas, I hope, is going to pay a heavy price, not only from destroying Gaza. This is not doesn't give us any joy, but we want to see Hamas giving up its capabilities. That's what we want to see. We are not yet there. We are only in phase 3 of the operation of the war. We are far from there yet.
One of the rabbis asked whether or not Hezbollah holding back might be because then they're going to come in as a 1-2 punch, that they have so many, over 100,000 missiles at their that they can certainly launch.
Yes, Hezbollah is a major threat, of course, if they start launching rockets. But they know that the price they're going to pay, and we have to remember, we are less worried about ground operations in Lebanon. What we are going to do in Lebanon is mainly air operations that may cause Lebanon a very big damage. And Hezbollah understands it and looks at it as a consideration that makes his appetite lesser.
Are there, you a few minutes ago, a little while ago, you alluded to the complacency that Israel was lulled into and or not responding strongly enough to what was being taught in the schools and things like that. Do you think so who in the international community, who in Israel itself, who beyond, helps to enable the extremists of the Hamas terrorists and other elements of the Palestinians to be able to operate with impunity, whether it's on the military as well as in public relations and on the international scene?
First of all, those who enable them are the Iranians and the Qataris. Let's start with them. They are the main culprits here. And the leadership of Hamas is operating from Qatar. We saw them there celebrating the big victory and so on and so forth. The Qataris still are considered to be friends of the West. I don't understand how that can happen. And the Iranians as well. Nobody takes any steps against Iran. Iran celebrates the murder of Jews in this horrific way, and still everybody is friend of Iran. Nobody cuts relations with Iran. Nobody says we're never going to speak with these people, as if it's not enough that they are deniers of Holocaust, treating their own people in a terrible way. supporting the Russians in Ukraine and planning to have a nuclear capability. All of these are things that are acceptable. And so there's no surprise that you can support Jews killing and you still can be a member of the family of nations. This is just ridiculous. But also I say that the international community is not decisive enough in its treatment of Hamas. Most people do declare Hamas as a terror organization, but not all. And the most important thing is that the UN, United Nations, who does look at Daesh and Al Qaeda as terror organizations, do not see Hamas as a terror organization. I think this is something the US has to lead, an effort to proscribe Hamas as a terror organization by the UN. It's amazing, and until recently, I have friends from all over Europe that come to Gaza in order to meet Hamas people. The representative of the UN is sitting with Hamas occasionally. What is that? It's by giving them this kind of legitimacy, you make them feel that okay, we can do whatever we want. Nobody's going to charge us any price politically.
Speaking of that, one of the things that we're hearing about in the United States being debated a little bit is the $6 billion that was recently transferred, and we're hearing different things. It hasn't yet been released. It will be released. It has nothing to do with this. Do you have any comment about the money the United States released, which was Iran's money apparently, in terms of contributing to what's going on?
Well, this money was not didn't have the chance of reaching Hamas. Okay, so. But giving Iran more money in a time when they celebrate the death of the Jews sounds to me a little bit odd. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit strange that somebody celebrates our death, our horrific death, and at the same time it's getting money from with the approval of the United States. Do you find this reasonable?
Yossi, any final thoughts you want to share with us about what to expect and or what will be happening, whether or not it's even going to be possible to take out Hamas leaders? Some have said that they may not even be in Gaza anymore.
They're not in Gaza. They are in Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably get them some other way, but my other thoughts is on a different angle. Please. Referring to you guys in the United States, okay? It's look, this in brackets successful operation has emboldened the entire group of terror and anti-Semitic and radicals around the world. They are all so happy. We see the rallies in Sydney, in New York, in wherever you want, in Britain. It's we see what some people are saying. All these groups feel that, oh, what a great achievement! Lord has been on our side, and we should make efforts to keep going in this direction. So I would be on alert if I was living in the United States as a Jew. I would be on alert because all kinds of lunatics and not so lunatics, dangerous people, can try to imitate this great success. So I think all people who stand against this radicalism, this fanatic radicalism, have to be on alert and be ready to defend themselves and support Israel in its defending of itself. Because we, first of all, defended ourselves because of ourselves. But what we do is supposed to have an impact on the entire Middle East. If we manage to change Gaza dramatically, this is going to help create a better Middle East and help the moderates in their fight against the radicals. Otherwise, the radicals are going to take advantage of this and use the success in order to imitate it. And it's going to be a very difficult time.
What is the morale in Israel at this point, Yossi, vis-a-vis going into Gaza and so on?
Vis-a-vis going into Gaza, the morale is very high. Everybody wants to see Gaza suffer, not Gaza, but the Hamas suffer. We don't hate Gaza. We are very committed to charge Hamas a heavy price. That's the morale in this respect is very high. But at the same time, we keep hearing every couple of hours there's a list of names of victims and people who murdered. There's a name you know, there's a name your friend knows, and there's a son of this guy, and there's the daughter of that guy, and so on and so forth. It's devastating. It's very painful. Not easy at all to see these lists coming in, and there's so many lists are waiting. We have now, I think, the names of something like close to 150 or something like that, maybe 200, but we have 900 or more casualties. It's these lists are going to they feed us gradually with the names. Maybe it's the right way. I'm not a psychologist, but it's a very difficult process for everybody here in Israel, and it keeps us committed to fighting back. So because there's the only way to make sure that this is not going to repeat itself.
There are times when we've said that two thoughts number of thoughts come to mind. One of which is that we've said over the years, if the Arabs were smart, they wouldn't fight us; they would let us fight each other. And we see that the attacks by the Arabs by Hamas has united the people. And the second thing is, I remember people saying that were the Arab armies to lay down their arms for a day, nothing would happen. But if Israel were to do so, there would be a massacre. And we find now that, in fact, that is the case. Is there possible that there was a cyber attack? Because I know even if just a cat would get near the wall in Gaza, it would be alerts immediately.
It was not proven yet, but many signs indicated that was the case. I just heard the story of the chief of the security officer of the area north of Gaza, a guy from Netiva Asara, and he said that at 6:30 when the war started, the first thing he saw was 3 gliders coming from Gaza into his direction. He was on his way to a bike ride, and he saw these 3 gliders, and all of a sudden there was no electricity and no internet connection in his village. So it's all kinds of signs that indicate that there might be some cyber attacks. We have not all this entire issue of learning what has actually happened is still pending. We say let's first deal with the Hamas, then we'll have enough time to find out what exactly happened.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you so much, Yossi, for taking the time to speak with us and share with us your insights. And what I want to do is just for a few moments, if there are any one who would like to either just share or have any comments that they want to. I said that we'd try and open it up so that I've tried to ask most of the questions that people had asked. But if there's anybody who would like to just share any thoughts or responses to what's going on, please just raise a hand and I'll try and call on them. We have about 5 minutes available for any general comments. Anybody? Go ahead, Rosie. Rabbi Chaim from Cleveland, please.
Yossi, can you talk to us a little bit about what we can do in America to help?
Well, first of all, any sign of solidarity is very helpful now. Really, I think the rallies and the readiness to donate and all these things, and I'm bombarded with all kinds of messages from American friends. Yossi, how do you feel? As your family and all, or even on a personal level, it's something that is very helpful because there was a point where this was an extremely devastating situation that was almost a state of shock. So it's I think everything you can do to support us in this respect is important. Secondly, as I mentioned before, this idea of going to your representatives, calling them, not just to issue a declaration of support, which is obvious, and make sure that they send enough equipment and the weaponry for the Iron Dome and all of that. These are important things. But I think that something of on the offense has to be done. And as I mentioned, moving towards declaring Hamas a terror organization by the UN would be a very nice move in this step. And let the Russians save them. And say if Russia wants to save them, let the Russians save them. And we'll see who has the upper moral point.
Thank you.
These are the things you can do. It's be on alert, because crazy people. You have enough crazy people in the United States as well, and you know that. I don't have to tell you.
Thank you. Certainly, our support and solidarity is very important at times such as Stuart Gershon. I see you have if you could unmute, and then if we have time, we'll go to Joel Schwartzman. Stuart.
Yes, thank you very much. With regard to winning and maintaining world public opinion, whatever world public opinion we can get, because we already see a lot of the anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist rallies around the world, wouldn't it make sense for Israel to follow the Ukrainian example and go to the International Criminal Court and charge Hamas with war crimes and do that and all of that to keep world public opinion, to show Hamas for what it really is?
It's a good idea. I think we should do that. But, we are so focused on the military reaction. But yes, we should work on the political and the legal issues as well. And definitely Hamas has committed here terrible crimes against humanity and terrible war crimes. And it's easy to prove that they're responsible for that. The only thing is that there's a question of the sovereignty of the court in this respect. I'm not sure that we want to go to the court, because we don't think that only states can be part of the criminal court, and we don't consider Hamas a state and don't consider the Palestinians a state. And we came against the idea of the Palestinians to sue us in the court, claiming that they are a state. And we said, you are not a state. And you are an observer in the UN, but you are not a real state. And so there's a problem here with this idea.
Thank you. We'll go to Rabbi Schwartzman for the last question or comment. Joel, please unmute yourself. Joel, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I apologize for breaking in on the chat, but the articles that I posted, the first one is from Aaron Lehrman. It's an explanation of the initial reasons why Israel wasn't able to detect what was happening. And the second one is actually Yossi Kupperwasser's own article that he published back in June. That's the URL for that. I have a question. Yossi, it's been reputed that Netanyahu was going to go visit Tayyip Erdogan in Turkey next month, but it's been a condition of the agreement between Turkey and Israel to exchange ambassadors that Turkey expel Hamas leadership that's been living in safe haven on Turkish soil. Do you know if they're still there?
Well, most of them are not there. The problem at the time was that some key figures in Hamas were living in Turkey. I think they still have an office there. I myself met with the Turkish embassy recently and complained about it, that they still have some small representation over there. And you have to remember, the leadership of Turkey are members of the Muslim Brotherhood, and Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood in Palestine. So they have this close relations for many years, and we are against it. We think that they should kick them out. For us, these are a terror organization. We don't see anybody who is in Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist, but Hamas, from within the groups belonging to the Muslim Brotherhood, is a terror organization.
Thank you.
The last thing I wanted to say with the warnings that I threw, there are going to be postings by Hamas on social media. In certain ones, TikTok is one, and there's another I mentioned. Keep the kids and the grandkids off these sites. These are going to be graphic videos of the butchery that they engaged in.
Thank you. And with that,
They are proud of that. It's amazing.
yeah, let me thank everyone for joining our call today, sponsored by the Zionist Rabbinic Coalition, a multi-denominational coalition of rabbis across the country who are united in our support for Israel. And at a time such as this, it is that much more important than ever. We invite you to please take a look at our website, ZionistRabbis.org, to either join or support our work and to be kept abreast of other things that are happening. And so to the colleagues and rabbis, as well as to members of our communities, let us continue to hope and pray for the safe return of the hostages who are currently being held. Let us hope and pray for the success of the Tzahal, the Israel Defense Forces, as well as for all of the healing of those who have either been attacked and or who have witnessed these brutal attacks, both physically as well as mentally and spiritually. Shalom Yisrael, and may we pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Thank you.
Thank you.